Hello, my name is Wes, and welcome. Thank you for watching. Today I want to talk about materialism and what that is and how it affects us, and because it's misunderstood by a lot of people, and I want to make some things clear for our own good, for our own mental well-being, because materialism is something that affects us in our minds. Now, materialistic people will not like this video because it's going to tear down the lies and the illusions that they live. They will not think they are lies and illusions because other people think like them, and they compare themselves to other people who are living with materialism, and they think if they believe it and I believe it, then that means it's true. But as we grow older and we get more experience, we realize that these lies and illusions are just that, lies and illusions. So let's talk about it and start from the beginning. What is materialism? Materialism is the idea that your happiness is connected to material things and collecting and having a lot of material things. And this is a dangerous concept because the truth is it's not. Happiness comes from within. Now, how do we get off on this wrong teaching? Where did this come from? Well, it comes from our parents and our grandparents and everyone before us who believed the same thing, that we're materialists. And most of society are materialistic people. Just the way it is. And society and our parents and our grandparents all live in a materialistic society, and they pass it on to us. And it isn't until we get older that the effects, the negative effects that are very serious, that can cause people to commit suicide, are seen from materialism. It creates a lot of depression because your happiness doesn't come from a new iPhone. You can entertain yourself for a while with a new iPhone, but a moment of entertainment is not happiness. Even a deeply depressed person will laugh at a funny joke and be entertained, but that doesn't mean he's cured of his depression. That just means he's entertained for a moment. And then when the funny joke is over, or the moment of entertainment, they're back in a state of depression because they don't have happiness within themselves. Because happiness is created to psychological feelings about ourselves. And this comes from the lessons and lies that we were taught. Some of us were taught. Maybe you're part of the 1% that was taught as a young age something different than materialism. But most of you, if not all of you watching this, were probably taught that materialism is the key to success. Success. To succeed, to be successful, is to have a lot of material things, to have more than somebody else. We are taught that life is a competition, and we compare ourselves to others. And if we have more than them, then we're happier than them. False. 100% false. Success has nothing to do with collecting mountains of wealth. And let me give you a reason. I always give you a reason. I'm not just going to say things without giving you reasons. The reason is success and feeling successful is completing, if you look it up, definition, success is completing a specific task. Our task in life that we need to complete is not to collect a bunch of junk, material stuff that's not going to give us what we're looking for. Success, the task that we are to complete in life, is simple. Survive. That's our task. As human beings, our task is to survive. And you do that by having food, water, and shelter. That's what you need to succeed in life. That's it. You don't need a new iPhone. You don't need a fancy house. You don't need a diamond ring. These are things that people buy to show to others that they're happy, because materialistic people will compare themselves to others, so they know others are going to compare themselves to them. So if I have a fancy car, that means I'm happy. No, it means you're a materialist. That's what it means. It doesn't mean you're happy. And we've got to get this message out there so people understand. Because the results of materialism is people buy up all these things to find happiness, and they're not there. It's just an entertainment for a little while. They buy a new toy, they play with it for a little while, and when they're done playing with it, their depression and unhappiness is back. Because it's not found. Money cannot buy happiness, and that is 100% true. The reason a lot of people don't believe this is because they believe their happiness is in the bottom of a booze bottle or a drug, because it makes them feel good, and that feel good is happiness. No, that's wrong. That's not what it is. The drugs and the booze and the toys and all these materialistic things you're trying to make yourself feel better is a result of your depressive state and not being happy. You're looking for happiness. And you can find it in the bottom of a bottle, or drugs, or a new iPhone, or a mountain of cash. But you're not going to find it. You can look for it there, but you're not going to find it there. What you're going to find is it isn't there. And Jim Carrey, the famous actor, he realized this. He found this out. And some rich people do. So materialism can actually help you in life to learn that it's not money and material things. And you can learn that by getting all this stuff and realizing, I'm no happier than when I just had food, water, and shelter. And Jim Carrey explained this in his realization that it's not millions of dollars that make you happy, because happiness comes from within and it can't be bought. You've got to be happy with yourself and who you are, not who you think you're supposed to be. It's this thing you're supposed to be that you keep chasing for, which creates your unhappiness. And there were rich people with all this money, like Robin Williams, Whitney Houston, Heath Ledger, Michael Jackson, the list goes on, Elvis Presley. They all died of either suicide or a drug overdose, searching for happiness after having big states of depression. Why? People say, oh no, it's a sickness. They don't want to admit that it's part of materialism. They just want to believe it's some imaginary sick depression that comes from nowhere. There's a reason why people have depression. It just doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes from our thoughts and our minds, and depression comes from an unhappiness within ourselves that we need to change. And our body is just telling us there's something wrong. You're living lies. And we need to change those lies, or you're going to just get more depressed and drown your sorrows in the bottom of a booze bottle. You know, and when I listen to Jim Carrey, if you haven't heard some of his talks recently, he's talking about this same thing. And people will say materialists get very angry because they want to believe that happiness is in their money and stuff, because they're showing it to other people and they want them to be happy for them, because that's where they get their happiness. So they get angry at rich people who tell people that, you know, I'm there, and that's not the answer. They get angry and say, oh, it's always rich people who are telling you this and not poor people. Well, I'm not poor, I'm not rich, but I'm telling you, because I had enough money to buy whatever I wanted, but it wasn't going to buy me happiness. And many years ago, I went through this process, and like I said, materialism can lead us down the path to realize that it's not this stuff that's making us happy or unhappy. It's ourselves and our self-worth, self-love, and what success is. Success is having food, water, and shelter, and providing that for yourself. Now you're successful. Most people have already been successful, but because society and your parents didn't classify it that way, it just comes and goes. And you keep chasing success when you've already had it because you provided your food, water, and shelter. That's all you need to be happy. You don't need anything else. Some people feel you need children because they throw all their love at their children, and the children love them, and they think this love in exchange is what happiness is. And they throw all this love at their own children but don't care at all about anybody else and their well-being. And they think that's their happiness. But you don't need children to have self-love and happiness. Love is something you have yourself that you give. You give. Yes, you can receive love, but you're not going to be able to receive it unless you have it yourself. Because you can receive love from somebody else and be a glutton to it, and be greedy and selfish and need it your whole life. Need this reassurance that you're good enough. Those people who love themselves and understand this are not conceited, they're not arrogant, they just know the truth. And that's what the truth is. Self-love means that you feel you are good enough and you don't need to achieve anything more. You don't need to live up to anyone else's standards. You don't need to compete with anybody else. That's just it, right there. Excuse me. Now, people say, well, how does materialism create this depression? Because people collect materialistic things, and they move on this journey through their life believing that happiness is in a nicer car. And they get this nice car, and what do they want to do? It's not for themselves just to look at. It's to show to other people. Look at me and my stuff, and look at how successful I am. Look at my stuff. I'm more successful than you because I have more stuff. That's false. Now, it doesn't matter how many people believe that. When you've got depression and you're drowning your sorrows in pills and booze and you can't buy enough stuff, that's when you're going to realize that it's 100% true. You can't buy happiness. You can buy the things you need to be successful: food, water, shelter. Anything above and beyond those things is not what success is. Now, I'm not saying that these things are bad. It's our minds we're talking about, and how the psychology of how our minds work. And when we get to a point where we have bought everything we possibly can buy, but yet there's still something missing, that's when other things come into play, depression. And we try to drown those sorrows with drugs and alcohol. And some people can live the rest of their lives that way, never ever finding out that happiness is not in those things, not in the bottom of a bottle. It comes from within, realizing that you were already a success years ago because you're doing what you need to support yourself and survive. And it isn't all this other stuff. And there is a lot of studies done on this idea that can money buy happiness. And if you look it up, and you will see there is some TED Talk about this subject. And because some people believe it can buy happiness. And technically it can, because it can buy you food, water, and shelter. Now, is that happiness? No, that's food, water, and shelter. Happiness comes from the realization that you're successful just the way you are. And you don't need to be anything else but what you already are. This desire to be what you think you're supposed to be is the issue with depression and society. And why there's a lot of problems. Why depression and anxiety are the biggest health issues in the country. More people suffer from these and tell their doctors about these than any other illness. And it's related right directly to this. This is where it's coming from. Because we're living a lie that society wants you to continue living. Society, your friends and neighbors who buy all kinds of fancy things and show it to you, want you to go, "Whoa, look at your stuff, you're great," because of the stuff you got. They want you to do that, and people do. But you're not great because of your stuff. You're not happy because of your stuff. No matter how many people tell you you're happy, unless you're actually happy and you have self-esteem and self-worth, that is happiness. Love from within inside that you give to other people. And I'm talking this is December, coming into Christmas, and I'm talking about this around Christmas time because it's the most materialistic holiday there is, and Jesus taught this message I'm telling you is the message that is in the Bible that Jesus was telling people. The happiness doesn't come from materialistic things. No matter how many times I say it, Jesus says it, every other religion in the world says it, you're not going to believe it until you experience it yourself, until you find out someday Now, some people may not find out because they may never realize that all they need is food, water, and shelter. They may just continue looking for this happiness for the rest of their life. Or some people will get into such a state where they will never be able to provide for themselves for whatever reason. Now, sometimes it's reasons beyond their control. Disabilities and things like that can cause people to, but everything goes in a circle. You can find out the truth from having all the materialism in the world, and you can find the truth out from having none. Because if you can be happy with nothing, you can be happy with everything. And that's true. If you're not happy before you get $1 million, it's not going to make you happy after. Sure, you'll be able to buy a bunch of stuff and entertain yourself. Entertainment is not happiness. Like I said, a depressed person can still laugh at a joke. That doesn't mean he's not depressed. And that's the root of it. That's the heart of materialism. It gets into our mind, and it's a lie that we live day in, day out, all through our life, and we don't want to give up this lie because our whole life has been built around it. And it's very difficult because the feelings you get when you buy something new, you generally feel that that is happiness. Because that's what you've related to happiness your whole life, these feelings of receiving things and stuff. But if you've never really experienced genuine happiness, self-love, because that's where happiness comes from, contentment, you have nothing to compare it to. So all you have is this feeling you have when you buy stuff. And it's different than when you buy things you need. Food, water, shelter. We get different feelings about these things than buying a diamond ring. One are things you need, others are things you want. Desire is at the root of this issue, this mental health issue. Your desires, what do you desire and why? Ask yourself why you desire these things. Do you really think happiness is in a diamond ring? What are you going to do with it? If a giant bomb, a nuclear bomb goes off in your near your house or close enough and everything's wiped out and there's no food, can you eat that diamond? It ain't going to do you any good. You'll starve to death, but you can't eat the diamond. You can't drink it and you can't live under it. And nobody else is going to want it because they're going to want food and water. That's what's important. Not a diamond. Now those with diamonds, well, they don't want to accept that because they want to show people what I got. Look. That's what makes me happy. It's just an illusion. It's fake, not real. And that's about all. I don't want to make this video too long. But it's something to think about this Christmas time when you have young children. I think you realize that they're going to grow up if we put materialism into them too strong. They may grow up to be very depressed, maybe even at a younger age. You know? Because that's where it's coming from. I mean, depression can happen from different things, but it's usually coming from a lack of self-worth, self-love, not happy with who you are. And materialism is at the heart of that. Because we compare ourselves. Life isn't a competition. It's not a competition. We're not here to compete with one another. We're here to help each other. Work together. Not to fight against each other. And the fight against each other part is materialism. It's a battle of who can get more. The more stuff you got, the more successful you are. It's not a good thing. And yeah, some people have tried to find happiness by buying all kinds of stuff and figured it out. But you don't have to. It doesn't take all that. It just takes a little thought. Deep contemplation about why you want the things you want. Your desires. And that's what I'm going to leave you with today. I thank you for watching. And if you'd like to see more videos and be notified, hit the subscribe button down there. And you will get notified when I put new videos up. And I hope you have a great day.